Alright, hello everyone. ZeldaSpeedRuns 2 here, presenting you the Link to the Past All Dungeons RMG tournament, Group F, between Pikapals and Desert Eagle. I've got oh my god, I actually didn't ask you how to pronounce your name, but I'm guessing it's M. Kozler.
Yes.
Yeah, I pronounced it right. I'm Kozler, and this is not Yoho. Alongside me here on commentary here. You two know way more about the game than me, so I'll just pass it on straight to you.
Hello, everyone out there in Twitch land. Like George said, this is M. Kosler, and this is not Yoho. We are giving you a great race of Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, all dungeons, restricted major glitches between Desert Eagle and Pikapals. How you doing today, Yoho?
I'm doing alright. How are you doing?
Gonna be doing fantastic. I believe this is our number 3 and number 4 seeds for this group. I don't actually have the challenge open up at the moment, but it looks like we are just about to get started with our run. And look, it is the number 2 and number 4 seed. There we go. Between Pikapals and a Desert Eagle.
So I should be getting started shortly.
Pikapals coming in with a PB of 1:15.28. Desert Eagle with a 1:22.03. Though both of these runners are capable, I would imagine, are capable of greater heights. I can see the SOB for Pikapals 2 minutes less than this, and Desert Eagle a whopping 4 minutes less. Pikapals is actually 3C, but he's showing up because of the current challenge records. Okay, gotcha. So the 3 versus 4, that was correct the first time. So, all dungeons RMG. This is a vanilla race of Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. Category is basically a stepping stone into the world of major glitches for Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. We've got a lot of different glitches that we can do in this game. Some extraordinarily powerful things like the exploration glitch, door glitches, I guess we call them transition glitches now, mis-slotting, all sorts of different things that can really bust the game wide open and really change or really remove a lot of the, I guess you could call it the sort of generic gameplay execution of the run. So we have this category of restricted major glitches, or this rule set of restricted major glitches that basically allow us to run a still gameplay execution heavy run while allowing runners to use a large repertoire of really powerful and fascinating glitches to change the traversal, dungeon order, all sorts of different things as they're going through this.
Yeah, you get a lot of the glitches, but you don't get the most powerful ones. Just as like a comparison, the 80% for each category. There's 3 categories: no major glitches, restricted major glitches, which is what this falls under, and then unrestricted major glitches. It's an hour 23 to finish versus like 27 minutes versus 2 minutes. So
right,
we're kind of looking at the grade of glitches there. So this set of glitches, you can finish the game without doing all the dungeons, but we wanted a category where you'd still finish most of the game.
right.
So this is the all dungeons kind of set.
Yeah.
You have to go into every dungeon, and that includes Agate Tower. So
and it includes this this escape sequence. Really, we're doing this for different reasons, but unless you're using some of the most powerful glitches, you're always going to have to be going through escape. But I believe the main reason is there is You saw at the very beginning when Link was walking around in the overworld. There's this rain happening. That rain state really confuses the game. Not a lot of triggers that are supposed to trigger actually get set up. Trying to get onto Death Mountain while the rain state's happening. You can do it, but everything looks very, very weird. And so really we want to get rid of that rain state. And as far as we know, the best thing that we can do in this subset or this rule set is just rescue Zelda like you would in basically every other category.
Definitely. So whenever you look at like an NMG speedrun versus an RMG speedrun, you're going to see this in both of them looking identical. Because
Yeah.
there's no restricted major glitch we can use to make this go by fast. First,
Right. Yeah, there are a couple of unrestricted glitches that we can do to navigate through the underworld in a funny way, and we'll talk a little bit more about that underworld map movement because sort of some of the principles of that underworld map movement we are allowed to use, just not the full version of it. But since we don't have the access to all of that, we just got to go just like normal. Both of our runners making pretty good time, right on each other's heels. You're not really going to see much separation between these two runners in this category, or really in any category in the escape sequence. All of our runners are going to be getting sub-6s for their escapes. It's not really much that you can do to differentiate yourself from your opponent in a major way.
Yeah, so in escape, really, the biggest thing to go fast in escape is your movement.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to basically do these minor movement optimizations. There's a little bit of movement tech called pumping, where you're resetting your animation to get Link normally alternates in a 2-1, 2-1 pattern when you're going left or up, and you want to set it so that you go 2-2. But it's really minor. It doesn't take that much time, but when you're trying to speedrun, you gotta do everything.
Mm-hmm. Looks like both of our runners had pretty good Keyrad RNG. Deagle had a little bit of little unfortunate luck in that he had to kill 2 rats, and both rats, one of them dropped the key and the other one dropped 5 rupees. So sitting at a little bit of extra rupee count, had to throw the boomerang twice. But here we go. We just rescued Zelda in the any % NMG no save and quit category. You're not saving and quitting. But in basically all of our major glitch categories, we allow save and quit. Main reason, if you screw up any of these major glitches, a lot of times the only way that you can escape is to just save and quit and go back to whatever respawn point that you last had. So because we allow the ability to save yourself from some soft locks, we also just decided to use that save and quit to skip a good portion of the walk from Sanctuary to Eastern Palace. Both of our runners opting to skip the optional first major glitch in the game, the citrus clip. If you're not feeling it, not comfortable with it, it can save about 7 seconds or so, but it can also lose you a significant portion of time if you're not really feeling it. So both runners saying not today.
Oh yeah, definitely. If you're not hitting the diagonal buffer. So yeah, that means that the eastern segment here, since basically that is the only real optional glitch that you can do for this segment, is also going to look fairly vanilla. There's not going to be anything funky happening, but oh boy, once we get to the next, it's going to go crazy. So
yeah, we definitely have a string of major glitches, one right after the other, in the upcoming segment, where we could technically go in a different order as soon as we leave escape. Really, there are a lot of A lot of the clips that we're going to be doing in this category are boots clips. Really, the only bootsless clip that we could do is that optional one that we just skipped on by. But pretty much the vast majority of these clips have bootsless versions, so we could technically change the route, but it's just so much faster to go ahead and pick up these boots, which you would get after defeating this dungeon, defeating the boss of this dungeon, and use your boots for much more optimal clipping than it would to try and route some other dungeon earlier and maybe wait till later for Eastern Palace. You could think, hey, well, maybe route in Palace of Darkness with Eastern Palace, but we actually do it. We actually get into Palace of Darkness in a very funky way, which we're going to see pretty darn soon.
Yeah, so one of the other things, boots let you actually run into dungeons. It makes a lot of the clips so much easier because we can do a trick called spin speed state. Mm-hmm. When you're in this spin speed state, the game likes to let you ignore it. So you get a little lucky there, I guess.
Yep. You get to ignore walls, mostly corners of slopes is where we're going to see most of the clips coming through. But we have just a little bit more before we get to where the game really opens up. Desert Eagle missing those arrows said, good thing to go and pick them back up. We aren't... as far as ammo and stuff goes, this isn't a... It used to be a lot more demanding category on ammunition count, both your bombs and your arrows. It's gotten a little bit better, but you still really stock up on arrows in this dungeon, mostly for this initial fight, but you would like to have some left over for the upcoming Palace of Darkness dungeon that we're going to be doing. Both of our owners look like they're having a pretty fine... just a little too far to the left.
But yeah, really, you want at least 7 arrows coming out of this one if you're not getting silvers. I think we'll actually see a divergence there, and one of them clears silver.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Pika gets silvers or not. I'm pretty sure that Deagle does.
So yeah, but like these first couple segments, the arrows are really, they're kind of tight. Like if you don't have enough arrows, your options for getting more arrows are generally pretty slow, lose you some time.
Mm-hmm.
There's a backup mimic strat or whatever that you can do, but not everyone knows it.
Yeah.
My race, I got burned on it pretty bad. But yeah, so we're getting our boots here. We're getting some bombs from the back of Saha's hut, and those bombs are going to be important because we're going to use them to clip ourselves into a wall. So, like Coastal was saying before, about talking about the underworld, just like the overworld in this game, where it's all laid out on one grid, the underworld in this game is all laid out on one grid. So we're going to be taking advantage of that and going to places that we shouldn't be through some irregular means. So like the underworld is all connected, but everything doesn't have a door to everything else like the overworld. Right? It's not like a bunch of open area. So if we can find a way through some of these walls, then like using some bombs to clip or something, then we can go places.
Mm-hmm. In the meantime, we're seeing both of our runners perform the Death Mountain ascent. Seeing Deagle have a little bit of trouble with got stuck up on a ledge, but luckily knew the backup to save him out of there. But yeah, really what we do as soon as we get out of Eastern, we head back to the Sanctuary, pick up that Sanctuary Heart that we skipped over, and then we're trying to get onto Death Mountain. We can't actually do that in the normal way because we don't actually have the power gloves, but at this point the world's really our oyster. We can kind of go wherever we want using the glitches that we have, and there are a number of different ways that we can get up on top of this mountain. This is just the newest one. Looking like Pika skipping over the silver arrows going straight to Pod, and we're going to see them do the one of the glitches that Yoho was mentioning before with this bomb clip. There's a bomb clip, pushes us into the slope there. From that slope, there's a downward teleport, hits the screen transition, and that screen transition takes us to, like Yoho was saying, a point on the overworld map that is, or a point on the underworld map that is in Palace of Darkness. And we're suddenly in the Dark World in the first dungeon of the Dark World.
Yeah, but we're in a weird state when we get into Pod. We're in what's called the cave state Pod. Because you didn't enter through a dungeon entrance, the game thinks you're in a cave, so you've seen the differences. The keys and stuff don't show up, so the game has actually set your keys to -1, which actually, because you're in a dungeon and there are actually key doors in there, whenever you try and use a key, that integer wraps around and thinks, hey, you can open any door that you want. You have basically...
Right.
So we use that to save a key in Pod here, to go ahead and open up that front door. Doing any further would not save time, but doing it here saves time because we can change our key routing to get around.
Mm-hmm. We basically skip, like Yoho said, one key. In this case, we're skipping getting the key that you would normally get inside the Dark Maze after picking up the hammer. Instead, we're just going to do a single bomb jump, hammer jump, and skip that key entirely.
And one of the things you might notice, or you might think about, is, oh, I don't have the Moon Pearl, and hey, isn't this in the Dark World? So if you look, whenever these players are running around, if you look at the pots, they're actually the White Wolf pots.
Mm-hmm.
It's we're in what's called fake Dark World. I guess this is fake Dark World.
Yeah, I'd say so.
So you see Pikapals. He's doing the hammer jump here. Double pixel perfect bomb way to get to the hammer to basically ignore the rails around that platform, get us there quicker, and save us a key. So one of the big things about this dungeon is, since you're doing it a lot earlier in the run, it's a lot more dangerous.
Absolutely.
We're only having 5 hearts instead of, I think you would normally have 6 or 7. So Helma does 2 hearts damage with any of his attacks. So you got 2 hits and then it's over. And that's assuming you don't take any damage from anything on the way back.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Desert Eagle opted not to get silver.
Not to pick up those silvers, yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
So he's going big for this race.
Mm-hmm. We could see him end up picking up. Currently, he's having issue getting his position for his first position for the hammer jump. Looks like he's 1 pixel too high.
That 1 pixel buffer.
There we go.
But yeah, one of the reasons that the silver arrows are such a powerful save that for phase 2 and Helma, you just shoot him once with a silver arrow and he dies. Instead of what we generally have to do in this run is 4 hammer hits, and the hammer hits we have to hold the sword out to extend the hammer hitbox to be able to kind of get in there and do the hit. So it's a lot more dangerous.
Right. You could see some of our runners, both of them likely going to have enough arrows. We could see our runners decide to swap to the bow and arrow to finish off Helma. It takes 8 shots to the gem in the center with the bow and arrow to finish him off. The hammer is obviously, if you're going for speed, is going to be your fastest option. But if things get out of hand, looks like Pika taking 1 hit so far. 1, 2, almost got the third. Ooh, a right side hit. That's always fun to see. But yeah, 4 hits with your hammer finishes off Helma. Only taking 1 hit. It's a pretty good fight from Pika. We're going to see how the Eagle ends up dealing with this fight.
So,
one other thing about this particular dungeon, this upcoming room that Deagle is going through, the turtle room, because we don't have that long sword and more powerful sword of the Master Sword, the turtle room becomes much more difficult to do in a fast manner, and that's easily a spot where you can take just one stray hit from one of those turtles, and now you're, instead of having 2 hits of leeway, you're down to just a single hit before you can die.
oh yeah, man, and that hammer hitbox is bonkers. So sometimes you think you're going to kill a guy, and he just flips right into your face.
Flips right over into your face, absolutely.
So, I mean, it happens. You take a heart there, and then you're one hit, and then you're Oko. So, in the clinch moment.
Ooh, right, speaking of taking a hit.
Yeah, Deagle's doing arrow strats here.
Uh-huh.
And it looks like, yeah, he's fine.
Yep.
He did the spin to finish it off.
Yeah. Nice awareness to know how many arrows he pumped in and to just release that spin. In the meantime, we're seeing Pika. What we do after Pod, the door isn't really open yet, and we don't really have Moon Pearl yet, so things are kind of weird. We can't really do too much outside of Pod, so we just save and quick, go back to Death Mountain, and now we're going to complete Tower of Hera. Pika had a very good bow dash,
he did not.
Or boom dash, but forgot to hit the actual switch to bring down the pegs, so a little unfortunate.
But yeah, so on Pika's screen, or what you're about to see on Deagle's screen, is what we're going to do is a clip to Hera. We're basically going to use spin speed. Well, it depends on which clip Deagle does. There's a fast Hera clip and a slow Hera clip. Mm-hmm. But basically, they both work by you're wrapping your coordinates around the map. So when you're jumping off that bottom part, you're basically ending up at the top of the map. Even though your camera doesn't move, the camera doesn't know to move. It's just a weirdness in the game. So you get to be on the top of the map pretty quickly, but you can't really see what you're doing, and you're kind of doing it by feel and figuring it out. So yeah, Deagle's going to do the spin speed clip right into the edge here, and see he's kind of not really sure what he's doing here. Is he going to get silvers now?
That would be an interesting decision to do it now.
It does look like he's going to do silvers now.
Very interesting. I'm going to have to ask him about that. Maybe, perhaps when he went for Pod, he was meaning to go for silvers, but decided against it. I'm very confused as to what we're doing here.
Yeah, and then he did the portal, and then took the portal, and
we'll let Deagle figure out what he wants to do.
For sure. In the meantime, one of the nice things about Hera, when we're doing it in this order, is that we have the hammer. Moldorm, instead of taking 6 hits from the fighter sword, like it would in the vanilla game, it only takes 3 from the hammer, and you get to skip his enrage phase, where he basically spazzes out on you, and you just hope not to get knocked off. Mm-hmm. So this fight is...
Ooh, unfortunate.
He still got knocked off, man. Moldorm can be...
Yeah, one of the... In general, the fight's easier because of the hammer. But one of the things that you lose is with your fighter sword, you can hold your sword out, let Moldorm run into you, and as long as you're holding your sword out, you don't really fall off the edge. As long as you're holding your sword out and facing and moving in the direction opposite of whatever ledge you're about to fall off. But with the hammer, you're just sitting there with no sword out for the most part, because you'd rather not accidentally hit him with your sword and deal 1 point of damage instead of 2. So what we saw with Pika there was an instance of you lose that protection from getting knocked off of the edge when you do the hammer fight.
So Desert Eagle is actually getting silvers. Mm-hmm. I guess from here on out, the big two things that silvers will really help you with, there are minor optimizations in rooms where you can use them, but the two big things is phase 4 Ganon, you'll be able to do that quicker, and you'll be able to do that more safely within the strats, and then with Vitreous, in case you get into trouble, you don't have to do spins and damage boost yourself. You'll be able to just, each eyeball will die to 1 silver, and then the large eye will die to 2 silver.
Right. It's slightly faster to do, to have silvers for Vidi. Not necessarily the first phase. The first phase is going to be the same no matter what. There's a fixed point. There's a fixed amount of time for the Vidi fight before the first lightning shot. But you do technically save 6 additional arrow fires worth of frames from the eyeball. Not really something that's you're really paying attention to with a safety like silvers, but it's there.
Yeah, well, I mean, you ran silvers a lot. It was a lot easier for you to deal with ammo counts and stuff when you had silvers, right?
It could be. It depends on how optimal you're trying to go for, though. Like if you're doing bow, whiz robes in Ganon's Tower, stuff like that. Wanting to make sure that you basically entered the Ganon fight with four arrows. There's a lot of different things that you can skip over and whatnot, but for a safety like this, you're mostly not paying attention to stuff like that. You're mostly doing it because you feel safer with the silver arrows than you would without silver arrows. But enough about silvers themselves. We are seeing Pikapals make their way through Thieves Town, another dungeon that's pretty similar to what you're going to be seeing, what you would see in most other categories. The main difference here is we don't have the Master Sword still. We're still working with just our little dinky fighter sword. So a lot of the enemies that we would normally be able to dash through and kill or deal with a lot better just stick around and beat us up a little bit more. You're coming into this dungeon basically as if you were sank heartless in the RMG category. Other thing which we're seeing Pikapals deal with right now, takes a hit and down to a single heart of damage here. Gonna be pretty... decides to play it pretty safe on that conveyor bridge. In addition, we're seeing Deagle having some trouble with the Mortem fight. Oh my god! Okay, decides to walk around.
Pika's got 2 extra. Oh no! The red guy! Oh no! Oh man!
God!
Deagle dies on the right, and then Pikapals barely makes it out with 1 heart. He did all that work to get 2 more, and then... Oh man, it's tense. But, yeah, so Pikapals has to, or Desert Eagle has to do the climbing.
Yeah, I kind of cut myself off because I was worried about Pika's health and then Deagle's unfortunate death. This room that Pikapals is in right now normally would have some sort of glove to lift up that rock. We don't actually have that glove. Luckily, the developers added in a side door that opens up whenever you kill all of the enemies in that room, which allows us to at least move on through that room.
So the blind fight, normally it's pretty safe, but if it gets off the rails, then you're in trouble, and Pikapals has 2 hearts, so...
Right. A single hit from the body or one of those floating heads would have done Pika in, but stays calm, stays on script, and we are clear through Thieves Town.
And Desert Eagle is back to the Mortem fight, getting his revenge. He's got the hammer out. He's going to let him know.
One shot, 2 shots, and an easy 3rd shot. Showing Deagle, showing his frustration with a spin on the dying worm's head.
Sure. So for Pikapals, next up is Skullwood. We have to do a little bit of shopping first, though. First off, we have to get ready. We have to do some prep to do some shopping. We got to get money. So there's 2 huts with 300 rupees in it. This is the first one that we're getting. The second one we'll get after we rescue the frog and the tempered sword. The other thing that we have to get is the book. Ether to be able to get into Mire. So since the library with the book on it is right here next to the frog, we just route it here. He's doing a trick here called Frog Door, where based on where he teleports, he gets sucked right into the library, and then he when he comes out, hopefully if he hits A at the right time, he'll be able to just talk to the frog and walk off without having to lift up the rock. If he presses it at the very wrong time, he ends up locked up. So he gets it.
Looks like he did fine there. It's a pretty low chance for a hard lock from that glitch, but in comparison to a guaranteed no lock version of getting the book, it's really like a 20 frame difference or so. I know personally, and I know a lot of runners for these group stages have not been doing Frog Door just because you'd rather not. Whenever you have a hard lock, you lose all your progress up to the last point that you saved, which for this category would have been before you had finished Tower of Hera. So 2 dungeons completely erased from your run, and you have to refinish them.
Yeah, I mean, it saves for 20 frames, but it can lose 10 minutes?
Several minutes, yeah. In the meantime, because we got that frog, we get to get our tempered sword pretty early in the run. We picked up the Titan's mitts while we were inside pod. That allowed us to get to the frog. Pretty much all the routing that we're going to see, that you see in any sort of category in this game, is a lot based around trying to get to this tempered sword as quickly as possible, because it just makes you're just a lot more powerful, so a lot more of the bosses die much quicker, and because you're so much more powerful, it's much more safe because you're just able to dispatch your enemies so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just that. It's that you actually can't beat the game on fighter sword. You have to get another sword.
Absolutely.
So our options here are, we have 2 options. It's between tempered and it's between the master sword. So the master sword is going to be a long way of running, whereas this is right next to it.
Right. And you might think that for Deagle, who went and got the silver arrows, well, that's also where you pick up the gold sword. Why wouldn't you just go ahead and pick up the gold sword while you're there? Well, unlike the tempered sword, which you can get literally from thin air, if you somehow get to the blacksmith's hut and rescue the blacksmith without picking up the first sword from your uncle, they'll still give you a tempered sword. The Pyramid Fairy doesn't actually allow you to pick up the or get the gold sword until you have the tempered sword already. So we just decide, so when you go for that silver safety, you're going just for that safety, and this is where you're going to get your only real sword upgrade.
If you could get the gold sword there, I think it's probably what we would do straight up. So
yeah, I think even the world record runners would likely just go ahead and get silvers and gold sword.
So Skullwoods, there's not very many glitchy stuff that you can do in Skullwoods. This is basically just normal. We're going to fight Mothula. Mothula has a nice bug in his. I guess it's not a bug. I guess they intended it, but it feels like a bug, where if he hits a spike after you hit him with your sword, he won't take damage. So there's some mitigations we can do to that, where you can see Pikapals is holding the sword out and dashing him, trying to poke dash him, fire rodding him off of the spikes and everything to try and get more hits. It's basically only 4 hits with the tempered sword, but it can feel like about 100 hits if he's next to the spikes while you're doing it.
Simultaneous crystal lifts from both of our runners. Let's give a little check-in at how our runners are doing. Looks like both of our runners have at least 1 gold in this run. Pika with a nice gold in Pod, Desert Eagle with a nice gold in Eastern. Pika is currently sitting pretty close to his PB. I don't have the segment time, so I don't know what we're going to be looking at when we finish this Skullwoods. Likely going to be pretty close to or just ahead of his PB. So looking like a great run coming from Pikapals. Hopefully can continue and finish this off.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy because Pika's like we were saying, he's a 3 seed in his, and he was playing the number 1 seed for that match, for his match, Louis. And he ended up beating Louis and getting a 3-minute PB. So to be basically on pace with that again is crazy.
Yeah, definitely showing that this is a category that you can pick up sort of whenever you want, and as long as you put some time and effort into practice, you can make very fast improvements in your run. After the Skullwood segment, we're doing a little bit more shopping. We need to pick up that ether tablet that we got the Book of Medora for. We also need to go pick up the flippers, and very similar to how the Underworld map works, the Overworld map is all just a 2D plane. So you might think, well, how are we going to get to Silvers when we're on top of Death Mountain? Well, all we do is we run all the way over to this little area next to the TR entrance, do a little spin speed clip into this corner. You can also just do a boots clip. Hit this screen transition, and that happens to be right above where the Zora's Domain entrance is. We walk down into the screen transition and walk right back up into Zora's Domain. Consequence of that is because we loaded the game in the Death Mountain state, all the tile set is loaded for the mountain tile set. So the game is doing its best with what it's got to try and render out Zora's Domain, but as you can see, it's struggling.
Yeah. So after getting the flippers, we're going to go to Desert, but we want to be able to do Mire. If you've noticed, normally in the game you'd need to get Flute to get to Mire. And since Desert and Mire are right next to each other in the Light World versus the Dark World, we're going to do a trick here called Fluteless Mire. But first, Pika's going to do the Swamp World. In this category, this is one of my least favorite screens in the game because of that little bomber guy at the bottom of the screen. But yeah, he's just going to run out. Should be okay. Swimming through and... Yeah. Still gets hit with a freaking ball. Like, those guys are just jerks, man. It's crazy.
They're like predators. They got heat ray vision. They know exactly where you're moving at all times, and they're here to deal 2 hearts of damage at a time. There are a lot of different versions that you can do on that screen to get around that particular screen. Pika went with the old trying to just walk around and grab the rock, but you can actually do a couple of different clips to jump over that ledge. In a similar manner, we saw Pika jump over onto the top of another ledge and walk into Misery Mire. It's supposed to be raining, but similar to what happened with the Death Mountain tile set, it didn't happen to load in everything that it needs for the rain state for Misery Mire, so you got to see some flashing lights and weird graphical glitches for the brief little moment we were in. Mr. Meyer before we mirrored to Desert.
Yeah. So, yeah, just doing a little clip, and there we go. We don't need the flute at all anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We can do desert.
Oh no!
Basically half of desert. We don't need to get. Oh, we got the flute. We got the fairy. Desert Eagle got the fairy.
Stacy was avoiding Deagle like the plague, but ended up tracking her down.
Oh yeah, for sure. So one of the things about desert, its item is the power gloves. So if we ended up getting that in the run, it would overwrite the type.
Mm-hmm. This isn't like rando. This isn't progressive items. Whatever you get, last is what you're going to get. So we wouldn't necessarily, depending on whether we do a particular clip or not. I guess it's more of a wrap or not. We wouldn't necessarily be in tough luck territory by getting the power gloves, but it's out of the way. Nobody's going to do it. It's just a fun little factoid to throw out there. A little annoying. One of the cool things about Desert is we take what is almost 100% agreement the hardest boss in the game in the Desert Palace Land Mollusk, and turned it into one of the easiest bosses in the game, coming in with the fire rod and tempered sword. We can easily one cycle. It's not a guarantee, because like you saw on Pika's side, you can get some poor RMG from any one of the Land Mollusk heads jumping in a weird direction, and you just can't track him down quick enough and move on to your next one. So it's not a guarantee, but it's still a much easier, much less intense fight than what you see in the NMG category.
Alright, so we're on to the Meyer split. The Meyer split is certainly an interesting one, because we're going to take advantage of, you remember the last time we basically did it was pod, that the entire underworld map is, contiguous, and we can go from one place to another if we can put ourselves in more walls. So there's a couple of facts. One is the game, no matter where you're at in the underworld, the game's going to use where you entered from to determine your key count and usage and stuff for the game, for whatever door or whatever you're trying to open. The other big thing is that it turns out that Meyer is right next to Hera, is right next to one of the rooms in Hera, and then Hera is right next to one of the rooms in Swamp.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to see Pikapals get the hook shot in this split.
Right.
So, just
even though the split says Meyer, we're visiting 3 different dungeons.
Yeah, you're getting a bonus prize in this one. You're getting the red cane and you're getting the hook shot.
Ooh, unfortunate.
Oh, God, that slug
almost
hurts.
Almost got a little kiss from the slug on the butt on the way back too. Luckily, did not. One thing we should talk about. Well, I'll talk about it if it happens. I don't want to bring that bad luck to
no curse.
But yeah, well, one of the things we have to do in here is we do have to pick up this big key. Coincidentally, how the big key is programmed is it kind of masks over the big key for Swamp Palace. So by getting the big key here, we're allowed to also, in addition to using small keys with the dungeon ID in other dungeons, we're allowed to actually use the big key from Misery Meyer to open the big chest in Swamp. So that we have to do all this junk to get the big key first before we head over to Swamp. And we also picked up an extra key when we went to the spike room in earlier in Misery Mire, because there's going to be a locked door that we have to bypass in Swamp Palace. So you're seeing here, Pikapals clips right on through the wall. Currently is in a fairy room in Tower of Hera, goes through that teleporter to get to the second from the top floor in Hera, drops down, gets to this room where we would pick up the Moon Pearl, does another bomb clip, just needs one more up, and then a diagonal down, and we are in Swamp Palace. Just like that.
Swamp.
Yeah, just like that, 2 clips relatively close to one another, and we've traversed through 2 additional dungeons.
Yeah, so Swamp looks like this because it's still using the tile set from Hera, kind of like in Zora and in on Desert Eagle's screen where he's in the rain state, but the game doesn't know how to draw the rain state because it came from somewhere else.
Yep.
Just draws it with the Hera tiles and colors and stuff, so it just
looks weird.
But yeah, we're able to just get the hook shot, easy peasy, and mirror back out. And when we mirror, we're back in Mire. So
yeah, because we never, even though we went to 2 different dungeons, we never left Mire. We never technically entered those other dungeons. The game still thinks that the game still has our mirror set point as the Mire entrance. So just by using that, we're already back. Don't have to do any additional clips to get on by, and we can go right back and pick up our King of Samaria. One little consequence of doing all this stuff into Swamp Palace, you saw that Pika had to raise the water level in order to get around to get to the hook shot. That water level actually stays risen as we continue on through the game. So when we make it back to Swamp, we're not going to have to do that room again. We can just very quickly skip on by.
Oh yeah, so Swamp feels like a breeze compared to having to complete it vanilla.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Pika is setting up to do Spooky. Throwing that block into that pit there. Set a magic variable. I mean, if you watch the game, you can see it's in kind of pseudo 3D. So there's a variable, it's called an altitude variable, which basically sets the height of a particle or whatever. When he threw the block into that pit, it got voided out. It got set to its max value. But because of a error, I guess, in the way the fire rod is programmed, that altitude is now being used for where the explosion of the fire rod goes. Then Pika got it. So yeah. Issues. He decides just to do it the vanilla way.
I think he was just missing the sprite for the actual hit on the anti-fairy.
Yeah, I think he fired a little low, so it looked like it was a little too far to the left or whatever where it normally hits out.
Yeah, we'll be able to see if Desert attempts it, what it might look like.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we saw Deagle do the Lamos fight. Since Deagle has the silver arrows, rather than use Tempered Sword plus Fire Rod, Deagle just used the silver arrows, 1 shot per Lamo with your silver arrows, and they are done.
Yeah, for sure. So that's one of those things. It saves a little bit of time compared to the Fire Rod, but I mean, it saves it in 2 ways. Because you're using the Fire Rod, you're depleting your magic, which at the end has to get refilled. And then the arrows are just actually faster than firing 2 Fire Rod shots. So it's a little bit of optimization that you get to do to get some of the time back, getting the safety of the sword.
So our runners are currently sitting about 1 dungeon apart in time. One of the things with this particular category is we jokingly call this all disasters because even at points like this, it is not the end of the race for either of our runners. There can be plenty of opportunities for a mistake, a hard lock, and this race can swing wildly back and forth between our two runners. One thing that we have when we entered Mire is we have to somehow exit it. Easiest way would be to just save and quit, but that's a little slow. So we have a couple different clips that we can do into these slopes in order to get right back over that ridge that we used to enter. And we're going to make our way to Swamp. It's kind of nice and convenient that we got 3 different dungeons all on the south side of Hyrule, and we just sort of go from left to right, one to the next, to the next.
Yeah, I mean, it's a boon and it's kind of a thing if you end up hard locking, because that means you got to do them all again. And
right.
After Swamp, we're going to do a trick that might end up hard locking. I mean, we might end up doing a trick. I think a lot of people have started skipping it just in case in these scenarios.
Right, especially in a race scenario, if you can pull up your opponent, see how far ahead or behind you are, and determine, hey, do I want to give my opponent the opportunity to pull back into this race, or do I want to just eat however many seconds of difference between the safe version of getting to the next dungeon or not. In the meantime, you can see here that water that we rose up already risen up. We don't need to worry about that small key because we used a key. We don't need to worry about that small key that got flooded because we used a key from Misery Mire to open that door. And we'll see if Pika goes for one of our newest glitches in this run. Yep, they are heading to the right. So we're going to see attempt at a diver down. A little clip through one of these rails that bypasses the deep water tiles that wouldn't make us start swimming. Having a little bit of issues.
Trouble getting into the hole.
I think it's still fine. Yeah, there we go.
So the thing there is, like, the game has the water on it completely separate, and it only checks to put you on that water layer if you go through a ladder to try and transition the layer. So what we're doing there is basically ramming ourselves into the rail next to the ladder so that we can jump down and ignore the check there, and we just end up basically on the floor where there's no water. So the game thinks there's no water. We can interact with everything under that water like there's no water even there. Pick up the pots, open the chest, everything.
Yep. In the meantime, both of our runners are currently in the same dungeon, but Deagle only in there briefly. Mirrors right on back to Misery Mire. Pikapals with a pretty decent one cycle. Argus. You might see, if you've seen this game before, maybe in a rando situation, something like that, you might see that our runners don't switch to the fire rod to go for the one cycle phase 2. If our runners are deciding to go for the Ice Palace Mirror Wrap, we actually want to stick with the hookshot. So it's actually better for us to just stay on the hookshot than to switch to the fire rod and then immediately switch back to the hookshot. We're seeing a hover attempt coming from Deagle. Is he going to make it?
Oh, he nice.
Nails it.
Yeah, he did it.
A good 1 second save right there.
Yeah.
All worth it. So that's to drop on down and pick up some silver arrows. Probably just a little more scared that he was going to take a little bit of extra damage.
Yeah, Pika did the same thing. He walked lower before he dashed across.
Mm-hmm.
That's a like, you gotta nudge the top rail or something there to not actually get hit, or it's really precise. So I can see how people.
Yeah. If you're nervous, want to just make sure that you're not taking unnecessary damage before the vitreous fight. You can definitely understand. Looks like Pika is going for this Ice Palace Mirror Wrap.
Yeah. So what he's gonna do here? The game hates when you do two things at the same time. I don't know if you've noticed. If you do two things at the same time, the game hates it. So what we're going to do here, he sets himself up to basically put himself right next to a transition, and he mirrors right as he enters that transition. and the game doesn't know what the heck to do. It puts him in a weird place with a weird camera, and then he basically does some magic and ends up in Ice Palace. He gets walked over through a transition to go to Ice Palace.
Yeah, whenever you do those mirror wraps, it like basically offsets your camera in some weird way, and then when you transition back, you do this really fast zoom through the map, and doing all that nonsense actually put us inside the otherwise blocked off area in the Dark World to get into the Ice Palace, so we can just walk right on in. We just saw Pika actually do the second of the newest clips for this category, the Icebreaker clip, that we use combination of extending our door state and the Samaria block to keep us in place in order to trick the game into thinking that we are still within the door, and so by holding up or down rather than just stopping us, it kind of pushes us out and pushes us right through that big old rail in the middle of that room. Ends up saving a couple seconds, but most importantly, it changes the routing very significantly in this dungeon.
Yeah, and I mean, with the combination of being able to not actually fire rod a freezer at the entrance and just bomb yourself, this dungeon ends up looking a lot different than you would see it in a speedrun, or which even looks completely different than what you'd see in a So.
Right.
Ice Palace is just I don't know, it's you take what you put into it, I guess.
Right.
And now he's fighting Cold Stare. He ended up not getting him grouped really well, so he's having what we call a Cold Stare party.
Yep.
And Cold Stare party.
Taking some hits from these. Taking some more hits.
Yeah, one more hit.
Down to a single hit, but finishes off the last puff.
Deagle's trying to go for the Fastmire exit.
Yeah.
And he gets it.
And gets it very nicely. Fastmire exit. Oh, just had to just jump on down. Luckily, that Inox decided to just walk down. This Inox can deal 3 hearts. I believe it's 3 hearts of damage per hit. It might be 4. I don't quite remember off the top of my head. Just by hitting them. We call it the Fastmire exit just because it's earlier. You have to stop earlier compared to what we saw Pikapals do. But it's kind of a scary situation because there's a Zora that'll be on the screen and shooting at you. So if you go for the Fastmire exit but aren't fast enough to do it, then that Zora will just be poking you, knocking you out of position, and ruining your day.
For sure. So Pika made it out of Ice Palace. Next up, we're doing TR, but to be able to kill Trinex, we need to get one more item. It's the last fetch item of the game. It's the Ice Rod. And since we're right here, we're just going to swim straight to it. We might see him do a clip to do it, or we might just see him run around. But basically, it's just to get that out.
I gotta say, that's one of the best swims I've seen all tournament. That is that is a hard screen, and it is. It seems like I'm saying too much for just swimming through there, but that is actually very, very good. Good movement from Pika.
Swimming is like a completely different movement from just running around because you're really momentum based.
Yep.
And you accrue it, so you're having to time your swims and count your swims, and then hope that the guy exploding doesn't hit you, but he's going to hit you anyway, and then your swim is ruined, and you're and you're hitting the corners. It's all sorts of nonsense. Yeah.
We in the meantime we saw Pika do a upwards teleport into there. There's about 3 different things that you could do. There are broken camera clips into the Ice Palace. There's that teleport that you saw right there, and there's just blowing it up like you would in a normal run. But time to go to TR, and we get to do our second mirror wrap of this run. This is really the only required mirror wrap for this run.
I mean, even it's not technically required. You can do it without it.
Yeah, you could. It would change the route of TR significantly, but yes, you could not do the mirror wrap.
there's a different clip that you could do just to get into the middle part of TR
Right.
in between, like in front of the big chest. But this is a lot easier, and it changes the entire feel of TR. You're basically getting to do it backwards, and all we need is one key to open that door to get to Trinex, and we need the big key, so we need a few extra keys to get to. But yeah, we're able to just do everything faster because we're doing it backwards, and the game was not ready to do it backwards.
Very similar to what we did with Desert Palace. Once we get our big key, we can just use that mirror to get right on back to that sort of midway point. I guess it's more of a 3/4 of the way point in TR, and take the other fork in the road to bring us to the boss.
But yeah, even though we're able to do this faster, it's still pretty dangerous because everything in here hits for a lot of damage. It's just like the vanilla speedrun. Everything is hitting you. You only have green mail. You could have grabbed blue mail in this palace. It would have been, but you didn't do it.
Yep.
But
you could have also talked to the once you save and quit after getting ice rod. You could have talked to the old man, who'd give you a refill of hearts. Yeah, you do have to talk. There's 3 different text boxes worth of chatting with the old man whenever you do that, so it is a little bit of time lost to do so. But if you're wanting to play it safe, that's totally something you can do. Here we're seeing Deagle do the other version of getting into Ice Palace, just mirroring and going normally.
So I think I timed this. This is around 10 seconds slower from doing the mirror wrap, but it is a lot safer.
Absolutely.
I can't even tell you how many times I've walked. Every time you just feel terrible.
Yeah.
I've soft locked it too. Like if you do it wrong, you can end up in the middle of the wall for Ice Palace and just can't move, and you just get to save and quit. You just get to see how close you were, and you just gotta go. You just gotta leave anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the soft lock is definitely. It's like you felt like you were doing good, and then you just have to save and quit and do what you would have done had you just gone. Just immediately mirrored and
just didn't try. So
yeah. Meantime, Pika finishing off Trinex pretty well. Decided with front door Trinex. Haven't really seen a front door Trinex in a decent amount, and we actually are likely seeing from Deagle picking up that blue mail.
Yeah, he gets
because of Icebreaker. Thing blue mail is actually a viable strategy.
Yeah, it's only a 6 to 8 second loss.
Yeah, since we're so close to that big key there. The old route where we would do Ice Palace bomb jump, way more time, lots more back and forth in order to get close to anywhere close to that big key.
So for Pika, next up, the big dungeon we're doing next is Ganon's Tower. There's a couple ways we could get there from here. We've done all the crystals. We could just open it in a vanilla way, but I mean, this is a restricted major glitch category. Who really wants to do it like that? So we're gonna save and quit. We didn't open Turtle Rock properly, so we're just getting shoved into a turtle's head whenever we're finishing the dungeon, and we're gonna save and quit from there. We're not gonna mirror or do anything funky. But we're going to clip right into Ganon's Tower. We're not going to see the crystal cutscene. The maidens aren't going to open the door for us or anything. We didn't need them in the first place, but we saved them.
Right. Saved them because the category demanded it.
Well, it's the right thing to do. I mean,
sure.
we want to do the right thing. We're the hero. We're we're on the way to the Triforce. The way the hero leads to the Triforce.
Yeah.
So. We do another broken camera clip, wrapping our coordinates around, going into the dark world. And then we wrap our coordinates around again to jump onto the stairs. There's a little set of stairs on the top of Ganon's Tower. Even without the cutscene playing to extend them all the way down. We jump right onto those and then just go into Ganon's Tower. So, Pika, I guess he talked to the old man before.
Yep.
So that's just a little safety strat. A lot of the times, or a lot of runners will not do that and will just go in here with 8 hearts. You'll have 8 hearts whenever you save and quit in TR after finishing everything. And do a couple of different strategies, or just not do a couple of different strategies.
Yeah, I think at this point with World Record, people are... It's starting to get optimized enough that people are just not talking to the old man and doing the NMG strategy in the first 4 of the climb. So you end up at like 4 hearts to finish the whole climb. It becomes a pretty precise and pretty darn difficult.
I think it's 5, but you could catch one off of a mimic too. So
yeah.
6. I mean, it's a strat I do too, but I just died. Whoops. You know.
Yeah.
So when you're in Ganon's Tower, one of the first things you want to think about is, where is my arrow count at? Because you need 18 for these ice armor.
Mm-hmm.
So Pika is at the right arrow count. He'll his arms with 1 for the wall to spare. Well, I think
Ooh. Well,
he got a wily one, and then he's on the slash out.
He's out. Yep, got a little ahead of himself, or more like wanted to try to preserve that 1 for the wall that you were talking about, and just decided it didn't actually shoot enough. Luckily, had 2 left over, and it's not that many slashes to finish off the remaining Armos, but it's always a pain whenever you see that happen.
Yeah, but it's worrying, because now, depending on how you do Aga Tower, you might not end up with a hook shot, so your bats will be funky, and that's a little scary.
Mm-hmm. You are going to have much more health fighting Ganon, so bat arc variable in bat placement isn't as big of a deal, but we'll see. We'll see what happens with Pika.
Oh,
meantime, we're
doing a bomb setup to put him on the transition.
Looks like he's
doing the low
with
one.
The old version of it, which doesn't have as good of a setup for getting that single pixel move into, or single frame move, I should say, into the transition. So one trick that you can do, probably something you might have learned from Rando, is whenever you have a bomb explosion that pushes you towards a transition, you'll actually go through the transition and you'll end up just 1 frame away from the transition, so you can use that to set yourself up for a mirror wrap on basically any screen transition. So if you're so inclined and you want to just watch and you just want to figure out weird new mirror wraps, you can basically go to any screen, blow yourself up, and then try to do a mirror wrap from there.
So, just Gnome GT Gauntlet stuff. Getting shot by Demos a few times and being a little unhappy about it.
Mm-hmm.
We gotta refight. Basically, we're refighting all the Light World monsters, but something's added in. Something's kicked it up a notch. So we're doing Lambo 2 now, but there's a guy shooting a pink laser at you.
Mm-hmm. Developers thought of everything.
Yeah. While Deagle's doing TR, he's going to get the big key, killing the pokey. So we'll be okay. Got the fairy drop too, so it's going easy. Nice Blizzworks 2 from Pikapals. Yeah, we're just traveling on through the game.
Through GT? Yep.
Yeah, the big thing we got to remember, when we finish GT, we're not actually done with the game. We can't just go fight. This isn't 80%. This is all dungeons, and we still have not done a dungeon.
We got 1 more dungeon to go.
With the biggest jerk RMG boss in the game, Aga 1. We fight Aga 2, then we fight Aga 1.
Yep.
Basically, we're doing a little time travel. It's the whole, I don't know, what's the lore in AD? all dungeons RMG.
The lore is we rescued Zelda from being encased in the crystal in Turtle Rock, and then at the end of Aga Tower, Sahasrara hasn't yet gotten the news, like the Japanese fighters on the islands in the Pacific. 40 years later, still thinking that the war is still happening, and says we need to go rescue the maidens.
Well, I mean, Aga 1 didn't get the news either because he's taking her out of there when you get up there.
I guess that's true.
It's a lot of wibbly wobbly timey stuff. So, but yeah. So here we're fighting Aga 2. Pretty soon here, Pikapals just finished Moldorm 2. It got amped up because now you're on a thinner platform than ever, even though it's kind of a little easier to do with the thinner platform. Because basically you just do a dash through them for the first one. And then you have a tempered sword, so everything's... But yeah, Aga 2, there's 3 guys. You gotta know geometry. Pika messed up the geometry, but there.
Yeah, gets one hit. You still have very similar to what you're going to see in Aga 1, where the real Aghanim can throw you a blue ball or not. But luckily, the illusions will always throw reflectable balls, so you'll end up very likely able to hit at least one per phase. You're hoping for more than one. What you're really hoping for is a 2-cycle, 3 hits in the first 2 phases. But that is both difficult based on how the illusions appear relative to the real boss, and not always going to happen because of the blue ball from the original boss.
Yeah, so the reason we do Ganon's Tower before we do Aga 1 is because, you know, we got put right on the top of the pyramid, and if we mirror, we can just be right at the front door of Aga's Tower. So now we're doing this thing in reverse. We have a lot better equipment, so it's a much easier time to go through things. You're not having to worry about prize packs or anything with the guards. You're able to just kill them and see what happens. Big problem in this maze here. He's doing the dash, but the dash actually causes a bunch of lag because of the number of hearts you have right here, and all the stuff you have right here. So, yeah, that's just a little bit of a different thing. But he is on hookshot, so I guess he's staying on hookshot for all of Aga's Tower. There's other strats that you can do where you're on fire rod for the entire time through, and then at the end. You're on fire rod. You basically save a menu. You don't have to go to fire rod whenever you're fighting Ganon. You just beat him without using the hook shot or any iframes. And then you can just light the torches and do the work. But
it requires different strategies for getting around those bats, those fire bats during that fight. So if it's something you're not comfortable with, just move to the hook shot. Doesn't lose you that much time to just stick with the hook shot. You can actually hook shot that key that we just saw Pikapals do right there through the railing right there. So yeah, even moving to the hook shot this early is not that big of a deal, and we might see Pika use that hook shot for some super speeds in these upcoming 2 rooms. You can actually turn around and use those little stairs that are in the door to do a super speed, but decides not to do that one. But at least gets the super speed off of the stairwell here.
So Aga 1, not getting the news that we already beat Aga 2 and released his inner bat blue pig guy, has something to say to us. Aga, basically on the 1st, 4th, 7th, 11th, 10th, I don't know, cycle, will do a guaranteed energy ball that you can reflect back to him, but all the other ones are 50-50. So on whether
the old coin flips.
Yeah, so on whether it'll be reflective or whether it'll be what we call a blue ball. It'll be a blue ball that just shoots a little blue light. And then before those guaranteed hits, he'll always do a lightning cycle. So right here, big lightning cycle, just taking up more of our time, and then he's going to give us a guaranteed energy. But
you gotta get 6 hits in total. So you're really hoping for as many energy balls early as possible. Can get all the way up to 15 as long as you don't miss any of the guaranteed shots. And did we just see a good old 0 BB there?
Yeah, I think that was 0.
Can I get this RNG in my next run?
So, all right, we've beaten Naga 1. We've sealed the rift in time. We've completed everything except the final boss, Ganon, the blue pig, the big guy. And what Ganon has 4 phases. Since we have Tempered Sword, for those 4 phases, it'll take 12 slashes for phase 1, 12 slashes for phase 2, 4 slashes for phase 3, but you gotta wait on him to finish warping, and then 12 spins for phase 4. The way phase 4 works is we don't have silver arrows. Desert Eagle will have silver arrows, but Pika doesn't have silver arrows, so he's going to do what's basically a glitch where Ganon is vulnerable for 1 frame. And spin to hurt him during that frame. But we'll do 12 spins of that, and then he'll actually win. Right, so it's a good what we call 1-in-1 from Pikapals, where basically you try and finish phase 1 and phase 2 through in 1 warp. And we're on to phase 3, and Ganon is teleporting around. So we got a few teleports here, and he's knocking the floor down.
Ooh, does take a hug.
Just took a hug. What was that, man? Oh, man. Ooh.
8. You can... Just to give a little example of just how powerful Ganon will be. When you're on Green Mail, taking a hug from Ganon, 8 hearts of damage.
Yeah.
Pika decides to take another hug, then Pika's dead. So hopefully we're not going to see that. At this point, though, the fire bats that Ganon spawns only do 2 hearts of damage, though. The main scariness with this fight is those fire bats can send you in all sorts of wild directions. And if you fall off into that the black void surrounding there, you got to restart the entire fight over.
I have not kept count at all on spins.
Neither have I. But we're probably somewhere
8 or 9. I think.
Left.
Nope. 1 left. Well, we messed
up. 1 left.
All right.
Yep. Yeah, we're both way off.
God, we're both terrible at it. So, GG's in chat for Pikapals.
Just gotta walk across this bridge, and we'll have our winner for this race. Pikapals coming in with an official SRL time of 1 hour, 15 minutes, and 58 seconds. GG's to Pikapals. Only 30 seconds above their PB. So another great run from Pika. I believe you said that they had just PB'd in their last race in this particular tournament. So to be that close again is fantastic. Currently, admins at ZSR are trying to see if Pika wants to join us for a winner's interview.
Alright, so we're joined here by Pikapals. Pika, how did you feel about your race?
You know, it had its ups and downs.
Yeah, you see you did get two nice golds, 1 in pod, 1 in TR. I believe Yoho said that you had just come off of in your win over Louis another PB, so to be this close to your PB again is pretty darn impressive.
Yeah, I'm happy I managed to stay close to my PB. Like, the fact that for the first half of the run I was just ±1 means that the PB was actually maybe deserved instead of just luck like I thought at first.
Gotcha. trying to think what everything that exactly happened in your run. We weren't counting that well. Was that a 0 BB AGA?
No, it was 1.
It was 1. Okay.
Yep, same as my PB.
I'm trying to ask all of our runners so that I can kind of gauge how people feel. How do you feel about the AGA split in dungeon being at the end of the run compared to something like an RMG? Do you like it there? Would you rather be in the middle? Just sort of a general thoughts on having that RNG be at the very end of the run.
Yeah, honestly, I kind of prefer it in the middle. It just, gives you a nice idea of how your run will go instead of being like, oh, I'm on PB pace, and then suddenly you're not at the very end.
And you leave it up to the game to
Pretty
flip
much.
a couple coins to see if you can get it. I think this means you've got your second win in this tournament, so that should put you into the bracket stage. How do you feel about your runs going into the double elimination portion of the tourney?
They've both felt really good, honestly. There were some mishaps that happened in a few spots, but overall nothing truly tragic has happened yet, so hopefully that keeps up.
Were you watching the race while were you watching your opponent while you were playing?
No, I tend to avoid it. I just find it too distracting.
Okay.
I was just wondering if you had thoughts about making more conservative choices and strategies.
Yeah, we were wondering after you finished up Swamp whether you would decide to go for the Ice Palace Mirror Wrap or just decide to walk on over, because you had a pretty considerable lead at that point in the run, and just mitigation for potential horrible hard locks.
Yeah, I was definitely considering it, even not knowing where I was in relation to Desert Eagle. I was just like, I probably shouldn't do the Ice Palace wrap here. It's not like I'm super close to PB pace. I'm just going to do it anyway, get practice, hopefully not screw everything up.
Gotcha. I know you're mostly known for being a rando runner. How do you like the difference between vanilla speedruns and randomizers?
It's definitely a lot different. I tend to have a lot of trouble with remembering exactly what to do for most every room in the game, so randomizer, it's helpful that 90% of the time you're running in with different stuff, so you don't exactly know what you're doing anyway.
Gotcha.
But it's definitely a nice change of pace.
In the meantime, we're seeing Deagle go through his RNG nonsense with AGA. I haven't been able to pay enough attention, but I think we've seen at least 2 or 3 blue balls. I've been kind of hogging the mic. Did you have any questions, Yoho?
Oh, I mean, not really. How do you like this category? Like, normally in randos, you're not really doing glitched kind of randomizer. Doing sort of the more glitchy side of Zelda.
Honestly, I like the RMG rule set a lot. I feel like with rando, it just get overwhelming how many options you have. But, I also did some LADX speedrunning, and their main category is kind of more similar to RMG.
Okay.
So I kind of like the whole break the game a bit, but don't completely destroy everything that you get in RMG.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Yeah, no, I think. I mean, it seems like you had a pretty good race. How are you feeling about that? Like, whenever you played Louis, like getting a 3-minute PB, that had to be pretty huge, right?
Yeah, that was crazy. Like, that was definitely the race I was expecting. I had no chance of winning, and then it sounded like he had some mishaps, and I played insanely well. And then I nearly choked it away on Ganon anyway.
Yeah, man. I mean, GG's on your performance in this tournament. Cool.
Yeah, thanks. It's definitely going better than I had expected.
Yeah, we're seeing Deagle just working through the Ganon fight. Unfortunately, you had 2 cycles in the first phase, but had some pretty good RMG getting Ganon up in the top right corner, so we can have a pretty easy 1 cycle for phase 2 there without taking much damage. Deagle actually ended up picking up the blue mail. It's started to become a little bit of a trend since the Sabin did it a couple days ago because of Icebreaker. Since you're right next to that chest there, that chest contains the big key, and so really it's like 6 to 8 seconds or something of time lost to get that, and so getting the blue mail instead of, say, talking to the old man before you go into TR in GT.
Yeah, I remember back when there were talks about Icebreaker for NMG. The main thing I was thinking about was like, oh hey, blue mail is like a valid safety now.
Yeah.
You're not like losing a minute in Ice Palace, one of the last dungeons you're doing.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely something to consider in this category. With that, we just see Desert Eagle make their way across the finish line, ending up with an official SRL time of 1 hour, 24 minutes, and 50 seconds. We're going to see if Deagle wants to join us for post-match interview, and yeah, get some GGs in chat.
Is blue mail really a strat or is it a meme? That's the question.
I don't really know.
I think it's a meme.
I'm probably leaning more towards you. With blue mail, a lot of the environmental damage in GT is going to deal 1 heart of damage to you no matter what. So something like gaining life from talking to the old man is, in the long run of things, going to be more helpful. But obviously, if you're like getting hit by wizrobes or shot in the face by a eye laser, then it's better than not having blue mail.
Yeah, for sure. It's like for me, it was like, okay, well, sometimes on this AD laser skip, I get shot in the face a few times and just die. So maybe I should take blue mail, but you're right next to where
you're right next to the respawn point. Yeah.
Yeah, like, it's not a safety I would take, but I can understand why people want it.
Yeah.
Even if it's not helping that much, it's just like you feel safer.
Yeah. Kind of like getting
blue does look better. Link looks better in blue. What are you gonna say?
Yeah, that's also true.
Yeah, just one moment. We're getting into the call.
Mm-hmm. In the meantime, for the rest of today, we do have at least it looks like one more match. Not going to be restreamed, but one more match today. Our next restreamed race is going to be tomorrow at 7 Eastern between Aussie and Trinex for Group E. Actually, there will be 2. That's going to be on ZeldaSpeedRuns 2. We've got another one between SNES Chalmers and Asder on ZeldaSpeedRuns 1, also at 7 Eastern. So a packed day tomorrow of Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, all dungeons. 3 tomorrow. Where's the third one? Let me look. Yeah, all the way at 9 Eastern between you, Pika, and the Super Nintendo. In the meantime, that ping means we've got Desert Eagle joining us. Congrats on your run, Eagle. I know you said you were disappointed in SRL, but getting through the run, always a good thing to see.
Yeah, I got so focused on, like, I just started doing the Kiki strat, so I got so focused on that, then I realized I forgot silvers.
Right.
And then I, for some reason, walked back into the portal when I went to get silvers, and then I was just all thrown off for a while.
Yeah, there was a lot of confusion on our end, because we were thinking you were like, oh, it looks like the Eagle is going to be pulling out the silverless strats this time, and you honestly handled the Helmasaur pretty well with just picking up some extra arrows and shooting in the face, and then deciding to go back for silvers. It was we were a little confused on what all was happening.
Yeah, I just forgot silvers. I thought about just doing silverless, but I haven't practiced
silverless
Ganon in a while.
Oh, the Vidi fight. Gotcha.
My silverless Ganon is okay. It'd probably be a bit slow, but I haven't done that so much in a while. But I would just be more worried about getting to Vidi with enough health, which I think I might have in this run. I don't remember.
Silverless Vidi is terrifying, especially when you only have like 10 max hearts.
Yeah, like when I was doing any percent a lot more, I had that fight down. Like I could go in, 7-8 hearts, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
And have no problem. But I'm not doing that on no practice.
Gotcha. Apologize for my phone.
The kind of like mid second half of the middle, I was pretty happy with. All the fancy clips and all that went pretty well, I think.
Yeah, so. I feel like all your clips were completely fine. Just some unfortunate death to Moldorm. Really set you back.
Yeah, that one. That was a little unfortunate too.
Yeah.
Moldorm's not the friendliest sometimes.
Yeah, Pika got knocked off.
To die.
Yeah, Pika got knocked off there. When you don't in NMG, you have your sword out, and you can pretty much stay on. But no sword out, one to get those hammer hits in, you're a lot more susceptible to getting knocked off.
Yeah, I was really thinking there I should just, because he wasn't cooperating with the last hit, I was like, I should just do 2 sword hits, and then I was stubborn, and I died because of it. But,
the safety of being able to dash through him with the sword is really you don't get that in this category, so you're just kind of shimmy around.
Yeah.
But other than the Moldorm, and I said other than the Moldorm, and I can't remember if there's anything else extra unfortunate. I think that was the biggest bad thing that happened, and then a bunch of other small things. But
I know Pika in Thieves, right around the time the desert died to Moldorm, you were in Thievestown, the Thievestown prison area, and you almost took a death through some really unfortunate movement from the Red Zazek and
that gel cell. That gel cell was tense.
Just part of the overall not great thieves. I was like going into that room thinking, maybe I should just hammer the Red Zazak. But then he walked to the right, and it's like, usually when he does that, I'm fine, so I'll just go for it. Yeah. And then he came up and shot me as I was dashing down.
Yeah, I've had that happen to me so many times that I've just been like, I'm just gonna kill him by default at this point.
Yeah.
But Yeah, I think I probably, if he went to the right, I would have done the same thing.
So I think that's all the questions that I have. Yoho, any other things from you? If not, let these two runners say anything before handing it off to George to finish off the stream.
Well, thanks for the race, Pika. It was a fun tournament. Good luck if you're advancing, or good luck with Superman and Taylor later this week.
Yeah,
Actually,
should be a fun match. GG's. It's been a fun race, fun couple of races so far. Hope it keeps going.
Right, with that being said, we still have some more CSR content for you coming up. Obviously, as the commentators have said, there is still lots and lots of A Link to the Past All Dungeons tournament races coming up. Some of them aren't being restreamed, but you should still check them out anyway. On Tuesday, we have the Minish Cap Randomizer, a tournament match between Magio B1, I probably mispronounced that horribly, against Relix. That is going to be Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time or 8 p.m. UTC. We also have the Zelda 2 Randomizer weekly race on Wednesday. So do come if you like that, do check that out as well. And I think that's pretty much it for me too as well. So thank you all for making this possible, and we'll see you next time.